Bitcoin takes another stab at our AOI and leaves us equal highs. Will this be swept? And ES makes new all-time highs as DXY drops into our AOI and bounces as ETH and BTC lag behind. Let's dive in and talk about it. Last week, we were expecting a stab into this AOI, or a potential for a stab into this AOI, and it delivered, but it just left us some equal highs here. Typically, well, in ICT at least, equal highs are going to get swept. This is some kind of truncation, that's it. But if this is the part of a correction here, then of course, in Elliott Wave, we're going to sweep this level at least. So that's what I'm watching for this week. We were looking at this level here, and we said that the more a level or area of interest gets attempted or stabbed at, more likely it is to fail and then be taken and reclaimed. That's what happened back here. We got some stabs into this area. Finally, we broke above, held above it, flipped it to support, and moved on. And so far, that level has held. This is still the major level that the bulls want to hold at this point. And then the secondary major level here is down at 70 for me. We did break this smaller level at 75, and I'll go down to the 4-hour real quick here and readjust. On this lesser level here, of course, we have these little wicks over here, but we have attempts into this area, and we finally took that resistance, that previous resistance, and turned it into support a little bit here. Not the cleanest, not the greatest look, but again, we have a flip in how this level is reacting at this point. So this is my smaller degree level to keep an eye on. And obviously it's played as a pivot here. So for Elliott Wave 2, this is going to be kind of the first level we watch for a pivot break. But here on the smaller degree, we're still putting in the lower highs and lower lows. It's not the greatest look with this break here, but nothing major is broken, like I said before here. So the trend is still up essentially. This little break of structure and this move down and flip to resistance was concerning, but we ended up coming back and breaking up above it. That calls us into question if this is going to break or not. But for right now, it's still looking good, and I think we're going to go up and head into this area of interest here and sweep these highs at a minimum. Ideally, we want to keep this trend going up if we're bullish. But right now, it's still looking like that's going to be the way, and with ES pushing all-time highs and DXY dropping, and with the DXY narrative, there's a potential we can move up. We do have to take into consideration, or I'm going to take into consideration that it's the first of the month here. I told the Discord that Friday's a little sus, and over the weekend's going to be sus until we get a futures open and a Monday open, and kind of give some distance between the first of the month and where we are in price here in time. It can be an important time. Again, you don't really know until after the fact, but as you can see here, like around the first of the month, this is where this whole thing popped off, and we've been up since. And I think it's the same thing on ES. I'm not going to say that it's definitely in need of a retracement. The market can keep getting crazier and keep moving up, but the risk reward is moving further away from the bulls the farther we go up. Again, that's not a guaranteed or a given, but typically we're moving further and further away from an ideal entry for the bulls. So for me, I'm not seeing a whole lot of tradability up here, if you will. The trade was really back here when we got this nice clear move and a potential bounce off of an area of interest as well. So buying up here or counting your way into a FOMO buy up here, it could work out. I might miss out a little squirt up here, or if it does take off, I'm still in my trade from back here. So if it does squirt up, that's awesome. As far as entries go here, again, I wouldn't be 100% confident. I wouldn't take this 9 times out of 10. We didn't get the full retrace that we typically look for, and we're not getting the Elliott Wave structure that's really ideal for this situation. So there's some questions that need to be asked here as far as, is this an ideal play? Are we just counting ourselves into a FOMO buy? Are we just looking for a way to solve the puzzle, or are we looking for a profitable trade at this point? Again, this could just rip. Someone's going to label this wave 2 or a wave whatever, and then we're just going to rip, and they're going to say they called it, and good for them. But if we're looking for consistency and confidence in our method, which is going to be Elliott Wave for a lot of us, I'm not sure if this is the best buy. Again, we do have some pivots here that are playing pretty tough, especially with some backing here with the level here. And algos seem to be doing pretty good in here as well, for the most part. So there's ways to justify an entry here if you'd like. But as far as an ideal entry, again, we're looking for ideal patterns. This was a pretty good pattern back here. This is questionable. This was the major thing here that we focused on. and said, this could be a B, this could be a 2. We don't care. There's a potential for this to be a diagonal. Then wave 3 is going to be a nice move up and quick profits. If it's a wave C, doesn't matter. If we take profit at a typical spot for a wave C, we're going to make some money and be in a profitable trade potentially. So the more this moves up, again, the more this looks good for a potential C wave here. Typically in wave Cs, we're looking for a 1-to-1 in height, and we're looking for a move within a base channel or a corrective channel here. And then we're looking for a proportion in time as well. All of these are guidelines and not hard rules. One other thing we're looking for as well is complexity in the wave C. So typically in wave A's, we're going to get a swift move up, and then the wave C is going to be less swift or have less of a slope. And that's what's going on here a little bit. Again, with the diagonal, it's not the swiftest move, obviously, but we're getting some complexity in this move here, which could lean to it either be corrective or in the wave C. Wave 5s are kind of lazy like this. Wave 1s can be ugly since the trend's changing and there's a lot of uncertainty. So this could be some kind of 1-2 moving up. Would I bet the bank on it? No. Would I put a count on this that has zero risk of me losing money? Sure, I'll put a 1-2 or whatever on here. But as far as profitability goes, I don't think there's a lot of confidence in this move. If I want to unlock a puzzle and potentially be right and feel good about myself, if it does play out, great. I'll put 5 different counts on here and hopefully it plays out. But as far as profitability goes, and of course, these are going to be my famous last words, I already know it, but I don't see a profitable entry at this point unless we get another impulsive move up here and then a correction back in. And then that's kind of where it flips for me on the bull side. On the bear side, I'm looking for a sweep here, sweep this liquidity, meet and hit all these AOIs here at 80.7K. Then we get a swift breakdown of this pivot and then looking for that internal correction again. So I want to drop down here to the 1 hour real quick before we move on. Again, just to solidify what I'm kind of looking for this weekend. Ideally, we stay sideways here. We meet all the expectations for a wave, impulsive wave here. We're going to wait for a wave 4 here and get a squirt for the wave 5, and then we get a tracement down. And that's what I'm going to be looking for this weekend, maybe into futures open on Sunday or tomorrow. Typically, we get a little bit of a sneak preview Sunday mid-morning about where we kind of see where ES and DXY is going to open. But that's what I'm watching for here is hopefully we end up going sideways, which all started happening yesterday and into the close here. After ES and futures close, we've just been going sideways since it doesn't have any input to go off of. So maybe this is some kind of 1-2, 1-2, and we're putting in some 4s here. So I'm watching for these to offset, or if we continue going sideways in some kind of triangle, maybe watching for the volume and the momentum here to see if we do get a pop, how that's going to look. If it's on weak volume and we get a lower high here on the histogram on the AO or EWO here, that's going to be an indicator, and I'm going to be looking for a break of that and an internal retracement and play potentially the C3 down. So if we get a pop up here, I'll be looking for something like this to play out. And then I'll be looking for potential entries if I'm at the keyboard in this area here. And then how we play from here as we come down for a potential retrace into this potential, if it's prints, impulsive range here. I think it'd be very romantic and everything would line up and the stars would align if we get a timed event, which happens around ES Open or Stocks Open, where we get a little pop up here into the open, and then all of a sudden we get a return back down either for a sweep of this level here, which is my secondary plan, or if we're going to get an internal retrace here before we get continuation. Again, if we just pop from here, I don't really see an entry. I didn't see an entry back here for that play. We could play the correlations, but ideally I want a nice clean pattern here that I can play off of and justify a trade actually, not just keep guessing at counts. So that's the ideal here on Bitcoin over the weekend and what I'm watching for. And then if this does play out and we get a nice impulsive move, I'm going to be looking for that C3, C here, and then I'll be looking for long. If we get a 3 down, I'll be watching for the break here, and then an internal retracement to this potential impulsive range before looking for the downside. Now let's look at the correlations. All right, here on the correlations, last week we were keeping an eye on some of these levels and they came into play and were reactive. So they continued to be levels of interest. We called out 7185 and then the center of this range here, and then 7085. Obviously, we didn't hit that. We did end up playing around this level here. I did end up taking some trades based off of this level play. And the same thing with this median line here. And the big thing that I was using as an indicator for direction here was the DXY for my trading of the ES. That's one great thing about correlated assets is that if you can nail down or clarity in one asset and they're pretty tightly correlated, you can use that information as confluence with how you want to play the other asset. Since we love diagonals so much here lately, this is going to be my suggestion here for now, but we'll have to see how this plays out. If we end up coming down and touching some of these pivots here and then moving back up and out, this comes more into play. But this would make sense after that huge move down in the wave 3 down here. Got a wave 4 that's kind of small and then kind of finish things off. The momentum's going to die and we're going to end up moving up in a diagonal before we dump over. And this is where the money's going to be, is up here if this does play out to be a ending diagonal. Of course, just speculation here. This just popped out at me when I turned this chart on. Still need proof here. I think it looks good here for an ABC complete potential, but it's all going to be on Monday when the futures turn back on. If we're going to come back and touch this pivot here, hold this pivot here, come down in corrective fashion, bounce back up, and take this high potentially. Ending diagonals can truncate. It's rare. So you have a rare occurrence on a rare pattern, but that would lean even more to this is going to just dump over. Again, we could just be putting in higher highs and higher lows forever. So if that does come up, again, we can go back and forth on what the probabilities and possibilities are. In the end, we have to look for where the biggest risk reward is. So if this does turn out to play as some kind of ending diagonal, damn right, I'm going to take a trade and try and catch that dump over. And I'll take a stop as the risk reward is worth it for me. That's what I'm watching for here. That'd be the ideal pattern to play. And that'd be the ideal pattern that I want to see print. What I want doesn't always play out, obviously. We could still be moving up in higher highs and higher lows. We'll have to see how we turn on Sunday night to see if this is actually going to play out like that. I think also we have to look at what DXY is doing as well. I think last week we were calling for this as a potential waveform. We were going to move down to at least sweep this low here. We had some weird spike up here, so it didn't move down exactly. I think we're getting a little bit big here as an offset for this as a potential wave 2 here for a wave 4. So again, either this is a ABC down, and then we have an X wave here, and then we're moving down for another deeper retrace, either deeper into this impulsive range here, or we're moving down to sweep this. And as all this fun stuff was going on up here and down here, BTC and ETH didn't really do a whole lot. Moved up into here, came down in the zigzag move, and then we ended up coming back up in a kind of lackluster fashion, except for on Friday, we got this nice move up, sweeping this level. So just to reiterate why I'm looking and watching for this kind of correlation between these two assets, as you can see, they've definitely played in these pivots in the past here. You can see I have them marked off here. Of course, they're not 100% timed directly, but they all kind of pivot at the same spot here. So this first level here, we see the DXY pivot first, and then these all kind of follow and pivot a few hours or a few bars later. Same thing with this level here. Apparently something happened at 1 a.m. or midnight on the 30th of April. And then all of a sudden, DXY dumps, ES climbs, and then BTC and ETH start climbing as well. Again, don't think that's coincidence. So keeping an eye on the DXY is my main canary in the coal mine now. And if we end up coming to areas of interest or putting in a pattern that I recognize on DXY and we're coming to a pivot, that's going to add confidence and be a piece of confluence in how I play these other assets. So to wrap this up for Monday, again, I think the narrative isn't great for the dollar, so there's a potential for it to keep going. We have a swift move down still, so that hasn't swept a low or taken a pivot yet. So that if this isn't a truncation, then our Elliott Wave eyes are going to see us continuing further down in some fashion. So that's what I'm watching for. A retrace of this at least, which would correlate as a move up in DXY would correlate with a move down in ES, which could bring us down. And then if we get a dump over, this could bring us up, and so on and so forth. And I do think that it is going to translate over to Bitcoin. Luckily, it hasn't been extreme to the downside, but unfortunately, it hasn't been extreme to the upside either quite yet. But I'm still waiting for that slingshot effect to happen as a potential play. That's just what I'm seeing for now. As always, I'm just rolling with the waves as they print. If you have a different take or see something I don't, drop it in the comments. Let me know. I read them all. If you enjoy this kind of analysis or breakdown, give me a follow and go check me out over on X as well. I'm a lot more active over there, to be honest. If you actually want to learn more about technical analysis and how to do all this fun stuff, I definitely recommend coming over to tradedevils.com and checking out the belt system. And that's all I got for today. Take it easy. Trade safe. Trade clarity. Later.